European affairs ministers from EU countries met on February 6 to prepare a summit of their leaders. It will take place this week on February 9th-10th.
Ukraine is high up on the agenda, with ministers set to discuss whether to set up a special tribunal to prosecute Russian officials accused of war crimes, from an article of Politico.
During her visit to Kyiv on February 2nd, the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, announced that an international center for the prosecution of the crime of aggression in Ukraine would be established in The Hague.
And Russia must be held accountable in courts for its odious crimes. Prosecutors from Ukraine and the European Union are already working together. We are collecting evidence. And as a first step, I'm pleased to announce that an international center for the prosecution of the crime of aggression in Ukraine will be set up in The Hague.
Since the beginning of Russia's war against Ukraine, the EU has already adopted 9 packages of sanctions. All of them are aimed at maximally influencing the Russian economy, and that means reducing its ability to finance the war against Ukraine. Now the European Union plans to tighten sanctions against Russia by February 24th, the anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In the 10th package of sanctions against Russia, the EU may expand restrictions on goods used by the Russian military-industrial complex.
As we approach 1 year since Russia launched its brutal attack, one thing is clear: we will continue supporting Ukraine, pressuring Russia to stop its aggression and addressing global fallout of the war. Josep Borrell, High Representative of the European Union Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, on Twitter.
Now the European Union is studying the possibility of confiscation of the frozen reserves of the Central Bank of Russia. This was announced at the end of January by the deputy head of the European Commission, Vera Jourova. She suggested that a way would be found to do so in accordance with international rules. At the end of 2022, the European Union froze the assets of the Russian Federation for 68 billion euros.
As a first step, the EU is considering pooling together the assets at the EU or international level in order to generate returns that could be used to finance the reconstruction of Ukraine, a task the World Bank has estimated could cost at least $350 billion, from an article of Bloomberg.
The United States has already taken the first step in this direction. $5.4 million confiscated in America, which belonged to Russian oligarch Konstantin Malafeyev, will be transferred to the restoration of Ukraine.
Today, I am announcing that I have authorized the first ever transfer of forfeited Russian assets for use in Ukraine. These forfeited assets follow the announcement I made last April of the indictment of designated Russian oligarch Konstantin Malafeyev on charges of sanctions evasions. At that time, I also announced the seizure of millions of dollars from an account of a U.S. financial institution traced to Malafeyev's sanctions evasions.
The 10th package of sanctions against Russia in the EU is estimated at 10 billion euros. It will also provide for closing the ways thanks to which Russia has so far been able to circumvent some of the European Union's previously imposed sanctions. Reported by Serhiy Kulas, Natalia Gusak, UATV News.